Hi, my name is Benita Summers, and welcome to my podcast on sacred relationship. Today we'll be discussing the 5 beliefs that can ruin a relationship. First belief that comes to mind is the idea that we always have time, that it's okay to let things slide, it's okay to go to bed angry because there's always tomorrow. It reminds me of the Buddhist practice of death realization. The idea that you wake up in the morning and you say, I could die today. So what am I doing with this day? There's an immediacy to that. It becomes important to focus on this day because you might not get another. And when we let things slide, when we hold grudges, when we decide to put off an uncomfortable discussion for another day, we allow disconnect to fester. And there becomes a wider and wider gulf between ourselves and the person we love. Instead, we want to think about the idea of get it done today. If there's a discussion that needs to be had, even if it's uncomfortable, if we can do it in as loving a way as possible, it's important to do it today, to find that time, find that moment. And if there's a lot going on that day, maybe the other person is struggling through something and today doesn't feel appropriate. Being aware of when we're just putting it off because we don't want to be uncomfortable. Be aware of when you're procrastinating. That procrastination can cost you your connection with your partner. Another way of looking at it as well, of looking at beliefs that can hurt your relationship, is the belief that the relationship is just about the two of you. If we look back at tribal times, villages where the only way they survived is if everybody took care of each other. When you were in a relationship with somebody, you weren't exclusive in your focus to the other person. You took care of your community. There was a broader picture. By supporting each other, you could help support your community and ensure the survival of your group. When we make relationship just about us and the other person, we create this really narrow perspective on the relationship. And then it becomes very easy to make that other person your entire world, and not in a positive, balanced sense, but more neurotic. If we think of relationship as sacred, two people coming together to create an energy that is beyond what either of them could create on their own, now you've got something sacred. Now you're building towards something beyond yourselves. And whether that's sharing a religion or a goal, some kind of intention, when you're both working towards something and supporting each other in that, and what I talk about here is working towards something that betters you as people, whether that's spiritual development, personal development, career, what have you. It gives you something beyond yourselves to aspire to, and it gives you a direction upward to grow together, rather than not sharing intention and you both go off in your own direction, and then you look back later on and go, who are you? You're a stranger to me now. One of the things that my partner and I do every morning is we watch a video that inspires us, and we'll often pause it and talk to each other about what we're getting out of that video, what it means to us, how we relate to it. So each time we do that, we are strengthening our connection. We're strengthening our intention as well about how our relationship is one of the ways that we grow as people. And there's some things you can only learn about yourself inside of a relationship, because when you live alone, you won't even see some of your patterns that you could be working on, because there's nobody there to reflect back to you, hey, I'm seeing this, and this doesn't seem to be working for you. So when we're with somebody else, we can either go, oh, that's bothering me that you're doing that. Can you stop doing that? Or we can go, what's that bringing up for me? What am I getting to see about myself that I didn't know that was there because it never got triggered before? Great. We get to see another dimension of ourselves that we can evolve, we can bring to consciousness, and we can support our partner to do the same. Now, in a sacred relationship, that means both people have agreed that they want to grow, they want to work on themselves, and therefore there's that understanding that you can gently point out to the other person, I see something here you might want to be aware of. And if you're both working in that direction of growing, you're going to welcome that. Even if it's uncomfortable, you're going to be glad that person pointed it out to you so you could continue to evolve. The other thing that I often see that's a disruptor in relationships is the idea that the other person owes you. You know, we came into this relationship and you said this and you said that and you promised me. And that's just never going to build connection because it doesn't include compassion. Your partner is doing their very best to give you everything they can to help you to be happy. And you're doing the best you can, but because you're human, there are going to be times you fall short. I remember watching an interview where Salma Hayek, the actress, was asked about the success of her long marriage to her husband. And she said, when a problem arises, neither one assigns blame. Neither one says, you owe me or you did this wrong. They say, let's find a solution together. And so when we're looking at the idea of you owe me, it often then leads to blame. You should have done this. So there's two beliefs going on here. You owe me and you're to blame if you don't give me what I think I should have. How do we counter that? Nobody owes you anything. You bring into the relationship everything you can to work on yourself and to support the other person in a loving way. They're going to do the best they can, but nobody owes you anything. If there's something we're not receiving, yes, we want to communicate that, but we also want to look at our part in it. Is there some way I'm blocked to receiving? For example, do I say, I really want you to do this, but when they do it, we criticize the way it's done, which can leave the other person feeling like no matter what they do, it's not good enough. So if we're not receiving something, we want to look at, are we blocked in some way to receiving? Are we expecting perfection? What is going on inside of us that our reality doesn't show that coming to us? And this is the interesting thing. When we move out of you owe me, and instead we look into the relationship as, how can I best serve in this relationship? How can I evolve into the most loving, compassionate, understanding, caring person I can be? And if both people are doing that, it engenders in you a desire to keep giving. And if you're not receiving, chances are you're blocked in some way to receiving. So we move away from you owe me by just setting that aside completely and just going, no, I'm going to offer everything I can. I'm going to work on receiving whatever's offered to me. And I'm going to look at any internal patterns I have that block me from receiving. And if you're doing all of that and you still see something isn't connecting, sure, have the discussion, but not from the point of view of you owe me, but from the point of view of something here isn't working, it's not flowing. Can we talk about a way to make it flow? Now you're working in concert with the other person. They might have a perspective you never thought of. They might say, well, yeah, that thing you're asking me to do, I can't get to it when you want me to because of these factors. And you're then able to go, oh, I can help you with that so that you can then get to this. It can be that kind of discussion where you're simply looking at, in what way can you coexist more smoothly? Can you manage your situation together in a more cohesive way. Remember, every discussion you have, you want to build connection, not tear it down. So thinking about, how do you do that? How do you approach it in such a way that it's not a criticism? It's not a you owe me. It's, I see this thing that isn't working right for us. It's not connecting up. You know, these things aren't happening at a time that would work well for me. What's going on for you? And is there some way I can assist so that this can work smoothly for both of us? Keep it cooperative, keep it open, keep it flowing. So when we end up with the blame game, you know, it's your fault. This didn't go the way I thought it should. That's another belief that can ruin a relationship. It's your fault. And again, we want to look at the cooperative process. We are creating our reality. We're co-creating with our partner. This gets into quantum physics, the idea that everything around us is a manifestation of our consciousness. And our partner often shows us our shadow. They reflect back to us aspects of ourselves we normally either can't see or maybe don't even want to see. So if you're the more laid back person and the other person's more dynamic, and their dynamism in some way is triggering something for you, then consider that it's challenging you to bring more of your dynamism forward, and vice versa. So we can blame somebody and say, you're doing something I don't like and I want you to stop doing that. Or we can say, what's this triggering for me? What is this bringing up for me? How do I look at that first? How do I create the space to let up any feelings of anger, resentment, fear, grief, shame, and work on what that is for me before I assign blame? Because assigning blame is a way of taking all those deeply uncomfortable feelings and handing them to the other person. I don't want to feel this, so if I can make it your fault, I'm off scot-free and I can feel good. And when we think about it that way, the blame game is really saying, I want to feel good. So if I can make you feel bad, if I can make you feel this is all you're doing, then I can feel good. But then you're coming from a place of feeling good by making the other person feel less than. And ultimately, that's not a good feeling, because it's going to build resentment. It's going to build a wall between you. It's not going to build connection. And you're going to end up being two strangers living under the same roof. And there's one thing worse than loneliness, and it's being in a relationship and being lonely. So by being willing to sit with the feelings that are coming up until you've processed them and you're centered, you create the space to have a conversation that isn't about assigning blame so that you can feel good. That means being willing to go into that space and sit with your deeply uncomfortable emotions, your anger, your resentment. And for a lot of us who were taught that anger is a negative emotion and it's bad to have it, we suppress it. So it slips out from behind our wall and comes out as blame. This is about sitting still and letting all of these feelings come up, being willing to own them and accept them. Oh, where did that come from? How far back does that pattern go? Whoa, is what I'm right now, I'm feeling like that's my angry 3-year-old coming up that nobody ever listened to. So damn it, she's going to make sure she's heard now. If you can do the internal work with her, you can hear her, and you can support her, you can come to a more centered place where then you can check it and go, do I still need to have a discussion with my partner about this? Or have I processed this for myself? Was this just my own stuff coming up? And then if you still do need to have the conversation, now you're coming from a place of let's work out a solution instead of this is your fault, fix it. So I love what Selma said, but if we have core patterns that won't let us go there, we need to work on those patterns first. Another belief that often ruins relationships is that of having rigid roles assigned. So, for example, when I was a kid, As the only female child, I had all the housework to do. So I was every weekend cleaning the house, vacuuming. And I think my brothers had to feed the pets. And then one day they didn't do it, so I fed the pets. And all of a sudden I was expected to do that too. I got stuck in that box of having to do everything. And it's one of the situations that can arise in relationships where you fall into a rut of one person always does this and the other person always does that. And then there's a feeling of it's okay to be angry if they didn't do that thing they normally do. And again, what we want to create in a sacred relationship is flow. That means being a well-oiled machine in the sense that you look at what tasks need to be done, what makes the most sense in how they get done, and being flexible for when things change. So for example, if your partner is sitting at a desk all day working and you have a more flexible schedule, it might make more sense for you to run out of the house and get the groceries and stand in the lines and do all that stuff, because your partner has to sit all day. And if they have to then get up and go do that at the end of the day, it's very draining. And they're not going to have a lot of energy to hang out with you and interact with you in the evening. So maybe most of the time, you running those chores makes sense. But what if you get busy and now you can't get around to those things? Partner's likely to take up some of the slack if that's what you've worked out, that whatever is most expedient is how things get done. Whoever's got the time and the space to do things, that's how things get done. If you're both working really hard and it's really hard to get to certain things, maybe you'll parcel it out and have somebody come and clean your place a few times a week or a few times a month. It's looking at how do you both manage your energy and your resources so that you continue to build connection, because your connection is the most important thing you have. So when it comes to these beliefs or any beliefs you might have, you want to look at, do they build connection? Do they help you set a healthy intention to continue to grow as individuals toward each other and to the greater purpose of a relationship that serves not only yourselves, but your community? Or do you have beliefs that put up a wall between you and create separation? One of the things that my partner said to me that I thought was really interesting, he talked about how quite often people place a lot of emphasis on special occasions like Valentine's Day, and yet they don't place an emphasis on the things you can do every single day. He said, you've got all these opportunities, 365 days a year, to wake up every morning and take that first half hour to really connect with your partner and set the tone. And the last half hour, or maybe even more than that, at night, to connect with your partner and end the day on a loving note. So quite often we'll see, situations where people say, well, they know I love them, I don't have to tell them. And they save up that special energy just for a special occasion. But on a day-to-day basis, they don't consciously choose to build connection. You've got those opportunities every single day. So set aside any rigidity around rules, blame, who should be doing what, and wake up in the morning and think, how do I let this person know how important they are to me, how much I love them, how much they matter? And at the end of the day, even if it's a really difficult day, and maybe you've had a fight and things are raw, even if all you do at that point is reach over and hug your partner and hold them, you're continuing to build connection, even through the rough times. You never know how long you have with your partner. Don't let these old beliefs keep you from connection, keep you from flow, keep you from building something beautiful that helps you both grow, awaken, and make a greater contribution to the world. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.